Okay, so it is coming something like that. Okay, now we have the project created already, employee application. Now what we are going to do here, for we are going to perform all the CRUD operations on the employee table. Now, what is the first flow we are going to create? First, think of that what we are trying to do here. The flow is meant to create a employee. What is that? To get the data from the database, right? So how do I get that? How do I request first? To request that, you need a listener. That is the HTTP listener. And here, how you make a request, what request you are trying to do. It's a, you are making a get request. So you have to specify that. You have to specify what type of request here under get. Here, get. Then we have to have the HTTP host port and all, right? It has to connect to some URL, right? That is a combination of host protocol, host and port. Now we give this some port here. By default, it comes 8081. No matter what port you give here, you have to use the same port while testing your application. When you test, it gets success. Okay, sorry, it is something. Sorry, this tooling instance is not available. Let's go here and check this. Why tooling instance is not running? If you face such issues, right, you just go here and check once again. Restarting Studio services. Say now it is running. Okay. Go back. Coming for that, we see if it is already added. No, okay, it is not added. Just click on the plus mark. See, change the port, or you can just leave like that. No issue if you don't want to change the port. Let's do it. This tooling instance is still not available. Okay, it is still under progress. It is still refreshing this. Okay, we'll say, okay, now we will see this in the later. Once it is up, now you have to provide the path also. How you invoke that? So what is your API? What is your intention? Say API slash I want to get the list of employees, right? So give that API slash employees. So when you are requesting this, to whom you are requesting to database connector. So you are requesting to database connector. So you have to have that connector. Where is the database here? If it is not available, just go here and search for database. Then it will give you all the components, all the options that are available for your database operations. Now, what is our task? To get means select, get all the employees, then drag that component here. Okay, or once you drag that component, what you have to give? See, it shows the error, red mark. What it means? It is expecting to give the mandate data. What is that required element is SQL text is missing. So before you give the SQL text here, first you have to give the connection name to which database you are going to connect. As we have a number of databases are there in the market, right? But you also have to check what MuleSoft is providing here. Say database name, you can change your name as MySQL, as you can just leave like that, no matter if it is just a name, right? And you can from the connections, right? You have list of connections available, 6 connections, which database you are using, you have to choose the corresponding connection. Then to work with this database, you need some driver, right? To load that driver. Driver is the one responsible to make connection between from your application to that database. So to do that, what do you need to do? You have to go here, configure, and click that. You can add recommended libraries or use local file, or you have add Maven dependencies. Click add Maven dependency. That make you easier to add that. It will come with that dependency section. Just
group ID, artifact ID.
Yes. See, this artifact ID is nothing but the name of the jar file.
Yes.
right? This group ID is just alias. Yeah, we can give anything here also. Means you just to identify MySQL, right? Group ID, and artifact ID is the exact name of the
Well,
jar name and the version of the jar you are using 8.3, 8.0.3.0. It comes with the dependency section like this, and the dependency section have a minimum two things: group ID and the artifact ID. This version may or may not be. If you specify this version, it takes the corresponding version. Otherwise, it takes the latest version. Okay, clear?
okay. Yes.
Okay, just yes. Even if you see Spring Boot application also, right? Whichever the
Mm.
version you specify here, that version jar files will be downloaded and will be available in the repository. You don't need to worry about that thing here because it comes with the 8.0 means Mul is supporting here. If you want to change the version, right, here in the left panel, right, you can change the version and say finish. That corresponding version will be downloaded because that you know that which version of my SQL you are using, right? According to that, you give that. Okay, if you are using higher version 8.0.330 and if you are using lower version, then that will not work. So make sure it should be compatible. Mostly you are downloaded the latest MySQL means the latest jar will be available. Now here the name host of the MySQL server, MySQL. What is the host? That we can say this host means our database,
Local
where
host.
the database is created. It is created in our local host only. If it is created in some different environment, right, something, then you have to give that IP address. Right now we created the database in our local. Then next port, by default MySQL server port is 3306 and user is the one yesterday I showed you, right? User is something. I have given my username, right? Vishwanath. And password we have given is password. I have given password one. And database name is schema name is we created schema as development name. Now just test this whether the details provided are correct or not. We can see here if something goes wrong, either in the username or password is not matching, immediately we could see the test connection is failed. If all the details provided are correct, you could see the text connection successfully. Once it is success, then you can move ahead with the same set of parameters across for other flows where you are using database connector. Yes, make sure remember this one. Once you create this database config, you can use across an entire your project, no matter how many number of flows. This is just tell you that these are the steps, these are all the details that are required to make a connection, to create a connection to the selected database. Okay, so this is one time again. In general, these things are not hard coded like this. This has to be read from outside of the application. In real time scenario, this will not be hard coded because in real time scenario, you see that from environment to environment, the database is different. Assume you are a developer, you have some, no, you have created one DB that is for the development purpose. And once it move to the testing team, either QA, QC, right, no matter that, they have definitely a different database because the environment, these values keep changing. Once it moves from the testing to validation, pre-validation or UAT, sit environment, right? That environment details also different. So that's the reason you should not hard code this. You have to use external location called as a property file. You have to main property file or YAML file. From there you have to read this. How you read this? There we have a syntax or we have a placeholders. We have to use the placeholders and configure that property file as a part of global connector, and then read those values and make it available here. Okay, just here, just okay. Once it is done, just provide a SQL query. What is our requirement? Get all the employees from
Select
employee
star from
table.
employee.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
select star from employee. Okay, on
Employee.
executing this, okay, just save here. Okay, once this connector on this component execute, it returns the list of Java objects. Means this is the SQL syntax, right? The SQL query, right? SQL output of SQL execution is Java object. So, but other end user may or may not know the Java, right? He is expecting that, and that he wants the data to return in the form of XML or JSON, which language he is comfortable to read the data. Assume I am comfortable to understand the JSON because I know JSON. I don't know JSON. Some guys know this XML. So this is something like that. So how the response is expected to process that data further, then you have to use the corresponding formats. So who will help us to do that? The transfer message. See, drag the transfer message. See, we just place this next to this component. So what we are discussing here, we are planning to convert this Java to JSON. What you are trying to convert? You are trying to convert as a payload is the incoming payload into JSON. As we see in the previous session, where is this payload is storing? I just after the moment it execute, then how this is available here? Because every component holds the payload section. See, on executing this one, this data, this query result will store in the payload. Where do you see that? Go to advanced here. You could see here payload. See, output section. What is the target value is? Target value is the payload. It is stored in under the target section as a payload. You can give name also, no problem. But default it takes as a payload. Okay, you can give name and play as you wish. Now at the end, right? Then you can put loggers before and after also. So I told you, right? Always use a logger component. Then that make you practice to trace your program, where it started, where it ended, how this flow is going on. So it will give you clear information what you are passing as a part of input and as a part of output, what you are expecting and is that coming or not. Okay, let's see here. So, get all employees. Okay, this is the end of the logger. Okay, request processed successfully. Suppose if you want to print the data here, you can just call the payload here directly. That's not a problem. How you do that one, right? Say payload. You can print the output of that also, right? So remove this if you are expecting the payload to return. Okay, now delete this to form a string. Say start this and say payload. So request process successfully and output is blah blah blah. So it will show the output. Let's start this application. You are already running an instance of embedded mul runtime. So this somewhere, this previous project is running, right? Do you want to stop that currently running, right? You can stop this. Means we have not stopped the previous server for the previous application. So it is still running that instance. So we have to stop that to go ahead with that. You see this? All these are Maven plugins, right? All the Maven plugins, dependencies that are required to start our application will be automatically downloaded here. And you could see this mul home is set to default as software. This is where we have installed or we have placed our application in the under the D drive folder softwares Anypoint Studio. This plugins under this plugins, right? This is using this server tooling server is available. And first it loads here, it checks the tooling server. Where is the tooling server? Once if this tooling server is not running and not available, you could see some error message like this, or your application will stop coming up. Then let's see Java Service Wrapper Standard Edition. say 64 bits, and all the information that is read, this everything gets loaded here. See, there's a lot of things going on here. See, now the Mule runtime engine got started. You see, Mule runtime and integrated platform version. What is that? 4.4 we are using. Okay, server started. And what is the default JDK it is using? 1.8. If you want to override with JDK, you can override that one. Okay, and
Sure.
see this. See operating system, it's Windows 10 and Java process ID and running on the host. This IP address of this host, or it is the name of the server, computer name, and this is running on host this one. And services are available. Mule services you could see API gateway, contract service, API gateway event, and so on. So on, these many services are available for us. And for the services plugin, see agent plugin, debugger, recording. So you don't worry about these things. That's we will discuss at the end of this. First, let's concentrate on our uh, flows. So once you are done with the flows, and if you are good in designing flows, then right, we'll have a time. We'll directly catch that one. Okay. Until then, please don't talk about that. This is just I'm showing you that once before the server is coming up, right? What things are happening here, right? First, it build all these components, right? Then what necessary things are required, what dependents are required for this application flow, then it will download all these things, then it try to convert this jar into one jar file, and then it deploy to Mul Cloud Hub. So where it is maintaining, I mean, some memory maintained to deployed application. It is not directly running like the source code. First, it has to deploy that. See, all these things are required. See, start application employee and database socket HTTP and MySQL connector it is using, right? All is required. And Mule is up and kicking. Right now it started and deployed. It is deploying as a part of jar file. Now it is started successfully. Now how we build the request, right? Say this is the host protocol,
Host.
host and port. And what is the path we can give here?
Employee.
Employees, but you can see this, it is not directly employees. I give something additional API slash employees. If you just always go
Employee.
here and see API slash employees.
Forward
Means
slash
this is,
API forward slash employee.
yeah,
Yes. Okay.
so you can directly give that without API also, but there you have to remove here. However, you have specified here the same thing you have to follow here. Otherwise, it is a not found.
Okay.
Now it is execute connecting to the database. You can go here and see in the loggers if you want to see. See, once it is connected to the database, right? What you could see, the first logger, get all employees is started. So this is the logger what we have written, get all employees. After that, at the end of the logger, what we see, request process successfully, and output is blah blah blah. Then we are displaying the
Yes.
output, right? See, request process successfully, and output is the payload we are printing. See what data it is printing here. The same thing we could see in the tool postman or user interface, right? You see this one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now this is how you can create the flow. So first make sure you have to think that what is your flow and what it is going to be, what things are required for you, and how I can write things down. Okay, now we are done with to get the list of all the employees, and the next job is, the next flow is, I want to create one more flow to get the employee based on ID. How you do that? The same similar flow, but the difference is that, right, here you have to write different query. Means
Insert.
here, yes, what is the query you have to write?
Insert.
No,
Select
yeah,
star from.
okay,
Uh,
employee where employee ID equals to the
uh,
input field you have to consider. Okay, first
yes.
what is the plan? Okay, can somebody tell what is the first thing I need to do? What can be drag in this canvas?
Please HTTP
Listener. because listener is the one who will listen your request. So here, what is
Yes.
the next thing in it? You need a connector configuration, but we already have the connector configuration available. We can use the same connector for any number of flows. There is nothing, right? You can have different connectors, same connector, no matter how you are sending the request to which host, which port, right? Depending on the host port, right? You can have the connectors. Now we can go with the same connector, right? No problem. Now we have used that one. So now next we have to give the path. Says API slash. How to do that?
Yes.
I'm employees
Employee.
slash. What you have to give here?
Um,
Syntax. That employee ID.
underscore.
Yeah, this is the URI param. You are sending this value as a part of URI param. So like that, you have to build the resource path. Then next, what is that? This is your option. But anyway, as practice, just keep adding this logger that make you practice when you are designing your flow.
Get employee.
Employee ID. Okay, that's all. Then what is the next step you need to do? You are trying to get the record from the database. So you have to choose database connector. You see, the moment you add a database, you take a database support to your application, right? That support will be added to your project. You could see here, now we have HTTP connector, means HTTP support as well as database support. So it automatically, the moment you add a database connector here, that will be available to your Mule application, and use download all the required jar files. Okay, coming to the flow. Now, next step is we are trying to get the data from the database.
Database.
So yes, say database and say select. Okay, yeah, sorry,
Transfer.
select. So this time also select where from where you are selecting from the database. So to which database we already have created connection. You just select
Yes.
that one because same connection we are using, right? Same database. Right? Then write the query. What is the query? Select
Select star from employee ID.
employee.
Under
No,
where
where yes,
employee
employee ID equals to what is the syntax?
underscore
Colon
employee.
employee ID. So from where you are passing this employee ID, you just giving employee ID string. This is just a placeholder. You have to
Yes.
send this from the input parameters, right? Enable this function and say this has to match here, right? This value only is going as a part of input your query. But how you fill this query? From where you fill this? Who is giving this query? That is the question. So this is coming as a part of HTTP attributes. But in that, which attributes? It is the URI params. But what is that?
Params.
Employee ID, right? So
Employee ID.
yeah, this employee ID, make sure this has to match to what you are trying to send as a part of URI param here. This should not be different, something else here. This should not be different because however you are sending, say this is coming in the form of this as a part of URI param, then that has to be matched here. Otherwise, it will not recognize that you are sending EMP ID here, you are saying employee ID here as a path, right? It will not know that. So this always make sure do not do such mistakes. That small mistakes lead to big trouble. Now, what is the next thing? Then you want to convert that message to JSON. So we have a number of formats are there.
Yes.
So we will discuss in detail about the data wave expression in the upcoming sessions, right? We'll have 2 sessions completely to discuss about the data wave expressions and what is that and how it will help us and what is the purpose, how many ways we can do that, how many ways formats, right? Everything we cover there. Now, right now, we will leave this one and drag one log out. Sorry, this is going up. It's a little bit scratch. Now here, this time we don't want to add nothing. I will simply that say
Request.
process. That's all, nothing. It is your wish how you want to display the logger message, right? There is nothing, no restriction on that, because as a developer, we are developing this application. We are implementing this as universal flow, right? What you want to see that in the logger. Why basically we are adding logger? Adding logger is not for time pass. There is a meaning to write a loggers, right? Just putting at the beginning of the flow and the end of the flow, that doesn't make sense. That it means you, it helps you to trace your flow, to trace your application, how it start, where it start, and where it went wrong. It is not only in between, right? In real-time scenarios, this is not a simple flow. This is just a sample, simple flow that, right, as a part of your training session understanding, right? You see this, if in real-time scenario, this flow starts here, it go here, and it may refer from this flow to another flow. From there, it calls one more subflow, and it may from this flow, right, it calls another request, or using request, it calls different API. So like that, like the flow is goes complicated. So if something goes wrong in somewhere subflow, this flow or this flow or in some my subflow, how you do that? Then in that case you have to have a logger at the end, beginning and have that end of that flow, in between of that. Before you, suppose if you are calling different API using some HTTP service, then you have to have a logger before that. Means before you invoking that API, right, your flow is fine. But the moment it invokes that API, that something going wrong, means from here my flow is not continued, then you can easily catch that by looking at the loggers, right? That logger will give the information where your flow is stopped, where it started and where it ended, what the reason it ended. Always don't give this static message, okay? You have to leave it blank wherever is necessary, right? If you leave it blank, right, it displays everything as we seen in the previous session, right? All the HTTP attributes and HTTP parameters, so paths, variables, everything, it will display complete information about HTTP. So that wherever is needed, that such information, you just leave it blank, right? If you want to see the detailed information about the current request, please leave this as blank. Don't select even this expression, just leave that blank. So you could see everything about the current request, okay? Why it is getting terminated, what is the reason, right? From the logs you analyze and go and fix that flow, so it will be easy to identify the issues. Okay, now let's see our application is started in slicing. Okay, now it gets deployed. Now is the syntax, you can someone tell how do you give the request here?
Path. Employee 6463.
Something what the employer is available here. You go and see here until it comes back. Say 6463 is the one, right? So this
Yeah.
has matched this data. Now you are trying something you don't know ID and giving something. What it do? Anyway, it successfully execute the query, but it is not able to identify such request, right? The record ID, the employee ID 12121 is not associated to anyone. There is no such record exists. So I will execute, I will do my job. Who is doing this job? This select statement, it is doing his job, right? But if the result exists, then it returns and send back to you. Otherwise, what it do? It returns the empty array. So interview question, they ask what is the output of the query execution of the select statement. If no results found, means if there is no result, right? If there is no data to the matching criteria, what is the output? It should not be null, it should not be empty string, it should be empty array, because it is returning the array of objects, right? That is the reason by default none. We are discussing array of objects, means the objects will be like this, right? Inside array, this is array. Inside array, how the objects will be structured? Object, right? Object 1 comma object 2, like so on, so on, so on, like that. So if you don't have the object in the database, what it do? It will remove the objects. Then what will be the remaining? Remaining is empty array. That is the reason it returns a empty array as a part of output. So that same thing that will be sent to this guy. Hey guy, I don't have anything to send to display you. So my payload is empty. The same thing, this what this guy do? It doesn't do anything. If data is there, he will convert. Otherwise, this guy display the same thing as is. This is what I can do because the other end from that source also coming like this. He can't do anything. So this is just guy transformer which will translate from one format to another format. It doesn't know anything. Okay, you can see this data wave. It is a data wave expression language version 2.0 it is using. Okay, this is how you have to start reasoning the flows. Okay, next in the next session we will add one few more flows to update, delete, right, and get by ID. Or you can enhance this flows with that, say another flows like to get the employee by ID, and that is already done. Then create flow one more flow to update the employee, to delete the employee, and to create a employee. These three flows we will cover in the upcoming session. Also, we will discuss about the different flows, right? What are the different flows, right? Like choice router, right? Scatter gather, or like there are many things are there, like types of flows and how many types of flows, how the flow is working, right? When to use each flow, and this
Yes, we need
connectors.
that one. We need that one, that theory part also, that scatter gather, this and all types
All
of.
these are all these are components that we will cover later in detail section. We'll have one separate complete session on this scatter gather and choice router. What is this also?
Yes,
So if you want to know about that description, right, you just mouse over that. Send the same message to multiple message processor or outbound
okay.
endpoints in parallel. In short term, in simple, I can say scatter gather will use to
Mm.
process the request parallelly. Okay, and the output will be the execution of the three requests, three processors or number of processors. How many processors you have defined in the scatter gather means it will gather all the events
Mm.
and send the output as a single output. Okay, that once you start creating this flow, then you can understand this clearly. Okay, no confusion. Okay, we will cover everything what we see here. Okay, now we'll stop up to here today.